My daughter-in-law skipped my son's funeral. Just hours later, she uploaded a photo in Cancun with the gardener, captioned, "Enjoy life while it lasts." Then I got a message from my son that stopped me cold. "Dad, come to my place now." I stared at my phone screen, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The funeral program was still clutched in my other hand, the one that read, "In loving memory of Ethan Morrison, 1992-2027. My son, my only child." He was texting me. I sat in my old sedan in the funeral home parking lot, watching people file out with red eyes and black clothes. They'd just spent an hour crying over an empty casket. I'd delivered a eulogy that nearly broke me, talking about the boy who used to build model rockets in our garage, who'd grown into a man I barely recognized anymore. My phone buzzed again. "Dad, please, it's urgent." I started the engine with trembling fingers. The drive to Ethan's house took 20 minutes, but it felt like 20 hours. Every red light was torture. Every mile marker felt like an accusation. What kind of sick game was this? Had someone stolen his phone? Was this Laura's twisted idea of humor? Laura, my daughter-in-law, the woman who'd just posted vacation photos hours after her husband's supposed funeral, the woman who'd made my life hell for the past 3 years. I remembered the wedding, how she'd cornered me in front of 50 guests and demanded I hand over my apartment keys. "Ethan and I need the space for storage," she'd said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You understand, right, James?" When I'd refused, she'd slapped me, hard, right across the face. Ethan had just stood there, silent, while the guests pretended not to notice. That was when I knew I'd lost my son. I pulled into Ethan's driveway. The house was dark except for one light in the back. His car was in the garage. My heart hammered against my ribs as I walked to the front door. It swung open before I could knock. Ethan stood there, alive and breathing. "Dad," he whispered, "come in, quickly." I couldn't move, couldn't speak, just stared at this ghost of my son, this impossible thing standing before me. "I know," he said. "I know how this looks. Please, just come inside. I'll explain everything." My legs finally obeyed. I stumbled through the doorway into the dimly lit house. Ethan locked the door behind me, checked the windows, pulled the curtains closed. His movements were jerky, paranoid. "Sit down," he said. I sank onto his couch. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. This was my son, alive, breathing, standing in front of me when I'd just buried him 3 hours ago. "Start talking," I managed. Ethan poured himself a whiskey with shaking hands. He didn't offer me one, just drank it in one swallow and poured another. I had to. Laura was going to kill me. The words hung in the air like smoke. I tried to make sense of them, but they seemed absurd, impossible. "Explain," I said. He sat down across from me, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. 6 months ago, I found out Laura was having an affair with Mark Sullivan, our company's CFO. I was going to confront her, file for divorce, the whole thing. But then I overheard them talking one night when they thought I was asleep. Talking about what? About killing me. His voice cracked. They'd taken out 3 life insurance policies on me. Combined total? $5 million. They were planning to make it look natural, maybe stage it as a suicide. I felt sick. "Why didn't you go to the police?" "I did. They said there wasn't enough evidence. Taking out insurance policies isn't illegal. Having an affair isn't illegal. They needed proof of conspiracy to commit murder, and I couldn't get it, not without putting myself in danger." He finished his second drink. "So I decided to beat them at their own game." "How did you pull it off?" "A friend from college works at the county morgue, John Brennan. Remember him? Tall guy, played basketball?" I nodded, though I barely remembered. John owed me a favor from way back. I'd helped him out of some legal trouble in our 20s. When I told him what was happening, he agreed to help. Ethan stood, paced the room. "There was a warehouse fire 2 weeks ago. You heard about it on the news. 3 people died, one of them a John Doe, burned beyond recognition, similar height and build to me. Jesus Christ, Ethan. John switched the dental records. Laura was called to identify the body, but of course she couldn't because of the burns. She had to identify my personal effects instead. My wallet, my watch, my wedding ring. I'd planted them at the scene before the fire. You started the fire? No. God, no. The fire was real, an electrical accident. I just took advantage of it. He met my eyes. I knew they were planning to kill me within the next few weeks. Mark had been asking weird questions about my schedule, about when I'd be alone. This was my only chance. I processed this slowly. There was a stranger buried in the family plot. My daughter-in-law was a murderer. What do you need from me? I asked. Relief flooded his face. You believe me? You're standing here, aren't you? You're not a ghost, so yes, I believe you. He handed me a folder thick with papers. This is everything I've gathered on Laura and Mark. Financial records showing the embezzlement, text messages about the affair, copies of the insurance policies, but I don't have proof of the murder conspiracy. That's where you come in. How? Laura trusts you even less than she trusts a snake, but she thinks you're weak, pathetic, a lonely old man she can manipulate. I need you to use that. Get close to her. Make her think you're on her side. Get her to confess. You want me to wear a wire? I want you to record everything. I've got a device that looks like a regular pen. It'll capture every word. He pulled out a silver pen from his pocket, clicked it once. A tiny red light appeared near the clip. State of the art. John has a friend in private security who provided it. And if she figures it out? Then we go to plan B, which is? Ethan's smile was cold. Publicly, in front of witnesses. And we let the police sort out who tried to kill who. I took the pen, turned it over in my hands. It looked completely ordinary. When do I start? Laura gets back from Cancún tomorrow night. Give her a day to settle in. Then call her. Tell her you need to discuss the estate. She'll jump at the chance to get her hands on the insurance money. What if she doesn't confess? Then we keep trying. We've got time. The insurance companies won't pay out for at least 60 days. They always investigate suspicious claims, and 3 policies in 6 months? That's definitely suspicious. I stood, pocketed the pen. Anything else I should know? Yeah. Ethan's voice softened. I'm sorry, Dad. Sorry for putting you through the funeral. Sorry for making you bury a stranger. Sorry for the last 3 years of watching Laura poison me against you. I should have listened when you warned me about her. You were in love. I was an idiot. Sometimes they're the same thing. I put my hand on his shoulder. Your mother would have seen through Laura in 5 minutes. Mom saw through everyone. His eyes went wet. I miss her. So do I. I squeezed his shoulder. But she'd be proud of what you're doing, fighting back, protecting yourself. That's what she'd want. You think? I know. We stood there for a moment, father and son, planning revenge against the woman who'd tried to destroy us both. One more thing, Ethan said as I headed for the door. Be careful. Laura's dangerous. If she even suspects you're working against her, I know. I'll be careful. Dad? Yeah? Thank you. For not giving up on me. Never, I said. Not ever. Laura returned from Cancun 3 days later. I watched her Instagram stories obsessively. Sunset cocktails, beach volleyball, Mark's arm around her waist in every photo. She wore a red bikini and smiled like a woman without a care in the world. Like she hadn't just become a widow. Like my son's funeral was already forgotten. The comments on her posts were brutal. People calling her heartless, disgusting, shameful. But Laura didn't care. She kept posting, kept smiling, kept rubbing it in everyone's faces. On the 4th day, I called her. She answered on the 3rd ring. James, what do you want? I need to talk to you about Ethan's estate. There are papers that need signing. Can it wait? I just got home. The insurance company needs documentation. The sooner we handle this, the sooner you can collect the payout. I made my voice tired, defeated. I know this is hard, Laura, but we need to get through it. A pause. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. You're right. I'm sorry. This has been difficult for both of us. Liar. Can I come by tomorrow? 10 o'clock? Make it 11. I need to sleep in. 11 works. She hung up without saying goodbye. I spent that evening preparing. Ethan had given me documents that looked official: estate forms, tax paperwork, insurance questionnaires, everything designed to make Laura comfortable, to make her think I was just a grieving father trying to settle his son's affairs. The recording pen sat on my desk, fully charged. I practiced clicking it on and off, making sure I could activate it smoothly, naturally. The red light was so small, you'd never notice it unless you were looking for it. I barely slept that night. Kept thinking about what could go wrong. What if Laura searched me? What if she found the pen? What if she realized this was a setup? But I also thought about Ethan at his wedding, standing silent while his bride slapped his father. I thought about 3 years of phone calls that went unanswered, holidays spent alone, a son who'd been slowly erased from my life. I thought about Laura planning to murder him for insurance money. That made it easier. I arrived at 11 sharp. Laura's car was in the driveway, a black BMW she'd bought with Ethan's money. The house looked different in daylight, cold, empty, like a magazine spread instead of a home. She opened the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater. No makeup, hair in a messy bun. She looked tired, but not grieving. Just tired like anyone after a vacation. "Come in," she said curtly. The house felt wrong. All of Ethan's things were gone. His photos removed from the walls, his books missing from the shelves. Even his smell had been erased, replaced by some expensive vanilla candle. "Coffee?" she asked without enthusiasm. "No, thank you." We sat at the dining table. I spread out the papers Ethan had prepared, making sure my movements were slow, old man slow. The recording pen was in my shirt pocket, the clip visible. Just a pen. Nothing suspicious. I clicked it once. The tiny red light came on. "Where do I sign?" Laura asked, barely glancing at the documents. "There's a complication first. The insurance company is asking questions about the policies." Her eyes snapped up. "What kind of questions?" "Why 3 policies were taken out in 6 months? Combined value of $5 million. That's unusual, Laura. It raises red flags." We were planning for the future. Ethan wanted to make sure I'd be taken care of. 3 policies from 3 different companies? Most people just increase their existing coverage. What are you implying? I kept my voice neutral, tired. "I'm not implying anything. I'm telling you what the insurance investigator told me. They're going to do a thorough review before paying out. They might conduct interviews. They might hire a private detective." She stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. Ethan died in an accident. The police confirmed it." "I know. But insurance companies are careful with large payouts, especially when the circumstances are suspicious." "Suspicious how?" "A young, healthy man dies suddenly. Multiple policies. A wife who goes on vacation the day of his funeral." I paused. "They're going to look into everything, Laura. Your marriage, your finances, your personal life." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm warning you. Because if they find something that looks bad, they might deny the claim entirely. And then you get nothing." She sat back down slowly, her anger replaced by calculation. "What do they want?" "Cooperation, honesty, proof that the marriage was solid, that Ethan took out those policies willingly, that there's no reason to suspect fraud." "The marriage was fine." "Was it? What's that supposed to mean?" I leaned forward. "Laura, I'm trying to help you, but I need to know the truth. Was your marriage really fine, or were there problems?" "Every marriage has problems." "What kind of problems?" She looked at me for a long moment. I could see her thinking, calculating, deciding how much to reveal. Ethan was stressed about the company. We fought about money sometimes, but that's normal. What about Mark? Her face went pale. What about him? The insurance investigator knows you were in Cancun with Mark. They've seen your Instagram posts. They're going to ask about your relationship. Mark is my business partner. That's all? Are you sure? Because if they find evidence of an affair, they'll use it to deny the claim. Infidelity can void a life insurance policy under certain circumstances. That's not true. Actually, it is. Most policies have a contestability period. If the insured dies within 2 years of the policy being issued, the company can investigate and deny coverage if they find fraud or misrepresentation. I tapped the papers. All 3 of your policies are less than 6 months old. You're well within the contestability period. She was quiet for a long time. Then, what do you want, James? The truth. Were you having an affair with Mark? Yes. The word came out flat, emotionless. Did Ethan know? I don't know. Maybe. Did Mark help you take out those insurance policies? He suggested them, said it was smart financial planning. And was it? Smart financial planning? She met my eyes. What are you really asking? I'm asking if my son's was convenient for you. You think I killed him? She laughed, but it sounded forced. You're paranoid. Am I? You're having an affair. You took out $5 million in insurance. Ethan dies suddenly. You go on vacation with your lover the day of his funeral. From where I'm sitting, that looks pretty damn suspicious. I didn't kill him. The fire was an accident. She was quiet. Laura, I don't care about the affair. I really don't. But if you're lying to me, if there's something the insurance company is going to find, I need to know now. Because if this blows up, it's not just you who gets hurt. It's Ethan's memory, his reputation, everything he built. She covered her face with her hands. When she spoke, her voice was muffled. It was supposed to be different. What was? Everything. The marriage, the company, the life we planned. She looked up. I loved him once. I really did. But then Mark came along, and he was exciting and passionate, and he made me feel alive again. And Ethan was just there, going through the motions. So you decided to kill him? No. God, no. I just wanted out. I wanted a divorce. But Mark said that was stupid, said we'd lose everything in the settlement, said there was a better way. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice calm. What way? He said if something happened to Ethan, I'd inherit everything, the company, the house, the insurance money. We could be together and be rich. Something like an accident? Mark said he knew someone who could make it look natural, a heart attack or something. Family history. It would have been believable. You hired someone to kill my son. We talked about it, but we never actually did it. We never paid anyone. We never went through with it. She was crying now. And then Ethan died in that fire, and we didn't have anything to do with it. It was just fate. You expect me to believe that? It's the truth. You planned to murder him. The fact that he died before you could follow through doesn't make you innocent. What are you going to do? Her voice was small, frightened. I stood up. I'm going to think about it. James, please. I need time to process this. I just found out my daughter-in-law planned to murder my son. You can understand why I need a minute. If you go to the police, you'll what? Kill me too? No, I would never. I don't know what you'd do, Laura. Apparently I never knew you at all. I walked to the door, the recording pen still running in my pocket. I had everything. The confession, the conspiracy, the evidence that would put her in prison for 25 years. Behind me, Laura was crying. James, please, we can work this out. I'll give you money, whatever you want. I turned back. What I want is my son. Can you give me that? She couldn't answer. That's what I thought, I said, and left. I drove straight to Ethan's safe house, a cheap motel on the edge of town where he'd been hiding for the past 2 weeks. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel. The recording pen felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my pocket. Ethan opened the door before I could knock. "Did you get it?" I handed him the pen without a word. He connected it to his laptop, played back the recording. We listened in silence to Laura's confession, her admission of the affair, her description of the murder plot. When it finished, Ethan was pale. She really was going to kill me. Yeah. And then she has the nerve to say she loved me once. He laughed bitterly. What kind of person loves someone and then plots their murder? The kind of person who loves money more than people. He played the recording again, and again. Each time, his face got harder, more closed off. "This is enough for the police, right?" I asked. "It's conspiracy to commit murder. Maybe attempted murder, depending on how far they got with their plans. Plus insurance fraud." He paused. "But there's a problem." "What problem?" "Laura said they never actually hired anyone, never paid anyone, never went through with the plan. A good defense attorney could argue it was just talk, pillow talk between lovers, not a real conspiracy. She admitted it. She admitted thinking about it, talking about it. But did they actually take concrete steps to make it happen? Did they contact a hitman? Did they pay money? Did they scout locations or plan logistics?" Ethan shook his head. "Without proof of concrete actions, it's just her word against the recording. And she can claim you manipulated her, pressured her, entrapped her. So what do? We get Mark to confess too, and we get details, names, dates, proof that they did more than just talk." "How?" Ethan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The plan was risky, insane even, but it was also brilliant. Mark lived in a luxury apartment downtown, the kind with a doorman and a parking garage and a view of the city. Ethan knew the security code from back when they were friends, before he knew Mark was sleeping with his wife and planning his murder. We waited until 2 a.m. Mark's car was in its assigned spot, a silver Porsche that probably cost more than my annual salary. The parking garage was empty, silent. Ethan had a key to Mark's apartment. "Laura gave it to me months ago," he explained, "before everything went to hell. She said Mark might need someone to check on his place when he traveled." The irony was almost funny. We took the elevator to the 10th floor. The hallway was empty, the only sound our footsteps on expensive carpet. Ethan unlocked Mark's door, and we slipped inside. The apartment was exactly what you'd expect. Modern furniture, expensive art, a liquor cabinet that probably cost more than my car. Through the bedroom door, I could hear Mark snoring. Ethan set up a video camera on a tripod, positioning it to capture the whole living room. Then he sat on the couch and waited. "Wake him up," he said to me. I walked into the bedroom. Mark was sprawled across a king-size bed, alone. Laura was probably at home waiting for the insurance money to come through. I turned on the lights. Mark jerked awake, squinting. "What the hell?" He saw me and relaxed slightly. "James, what are you doing here? How did you get in?" "We need to talk about my son." "Now? It's 2 a.m. "Now." He pulled on a robe, irritated. "This better be important." I led him into the living room. The color drained from his face. No, that's not possible. I saw the body." "You saw a burned corpse," Ethan said calmly. "Not me." Mark stumbled backward. "This isn't real. I'm dreaming. I'm hallucinating." "You're not. I'm alive. Surprise." "But the funeral." "Fake. The body was a John Doe from the warehouse fire. The disappearance certificate was forged. The whole thing was staged." Ethan smiled. "I faked my disappearance before you and Laura could kill me for real." Mark's eyes darted to the door, calculating if he could run, but I was blocking the exit and Ethan was closer. "Sit down," Ethan said. Mark sat. His hands were shaking. Let's talk about the insurance policies, Ethan continued. The $5 million you and Laura were planning to collect. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. 3 policies. 3 different companies. All taken out in the last 6 months. All with Laura as the beneficiary. That was standard financial planning. Was it standard to hire someone to kill me? I never... Laura already confessed. I have it on tape. She told my father everything. About the affair, about the murder plot, about the person you contacted to make my disappearance look natural. Mark's face went from pale to gray. She's lying. She's trying to save herself. Is she? Because she said you were the one who planned everything. You found the hit man. You worked out the details. You convinced her it was the only way. That's not true. Then tell me your version. Tell me the truth. I want a lawyer. You're not under arrest. Not yet. This is just a conversation between old friends. Ethan leaned forward. But if you don't talk to me, I'm going to the police. And I'm going to tell them everything. And Laura's going to tell them everything. And you're going to spend the next 30 years in prison. Mark put his head in his hands. It wasn't supposed to go this way. How was it supposed to go? You were supposed to die in the warehouse fire. I paid an arsonist to set it. 20,000 cash. He was supposed to make sure you were inside. But you left early. And the fire happened anyway. And there were other bodies. He looked up. So you did hire someone to kill me. The arsonist, Billy Kowalski. He's done work for me before. Torching buildings for insurance fraud. He's reliable. Reliable at murder. It was supposed to look like an accident. It's still murder, Mark. Mark was crying now. I didn't want to. Laura pushed me. She said you were going to find out about us. Said you'd divorce her and take everything. She said we had to act first. You're blaming her? I just wanted the money. Ethan gestured to the camera. Say that again, for the record. Mark saw the camera and realized what had happened. He'd confessed to conspiracy to commit murder, to hiring an arsonist, to insurance fraud. All on tape, with a witness. He lunged for the camera, but Ethan was faster. They crashed into the coffee table, glass shattering. Mark was bigger, but Ethan was desperate. They grappled for a moment before I pulled Mark off. Enough! I shouted. Mark collapsed on the floor, broken. You were my friend. We built that company together. And then you tried to kill me, Ethan said. Friendship's over. I called the police. Detective Walsh arrived with 3 squad cars and a lot of questions. Mark was arrested immediately. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, arson, insurance fraud. They read him his rights while he sobbed. I need to bring Laura in too, Walsh said. She's at home, I told him. Probably sleeping. Not for long. We all drove to Ethan's house. Laura answered the door in pajamas, her face confused. Then she saw Mark in handcuffs, saw Ethan standing behind the police, and understood. You bastard, she hissed at Ethan. You faked your own disappearance. You set us up. You tried to murder me for insurance money. I'd say we're even. She tried to run, got about 3 steps before Walsh's partner tackled her. They cuffed her on the front lawn while neighbors watched from their windows. Laura Morrison, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent. I know my rights, she was screaming now. This is entrapment. Illegal. That recording is inadmissible. We'll let the lawyers figure that out, Walsh said. They loaded her into a squad car. As it pulled away, she was still screaming about her rights, about illegal recordings, about how none of this would hold up in court. Detective Walsh turned to us. That was quite a performance. Was it legal? I asked. The recording from your conversation with Laura? Perfectly legal. You're allowed to record conversations you're party to. The video from Mark's apartment? He paused. Bit more complicated. You broke into his apartment, recorded without his knowledge. That might get thrown out. But we have Laura's confession. You do. And that, plus the insurance policies, plus Mark's history of arson, that's enough to charge them both. Will they go to prison? Ethan asked. If I had to bet? Yeah. 25 to 30 years minimum. Maybe more if we can prove the arson resulted in those other disappearances at the warehouse. Other disappearances. I'd forgotten about the 2 workers who died in the fire. The John Doe whose body had replaced Ethan's. They were real people with real families, and Mark had killed them. Good, Ethan said. They deserve it. Walsh nodded. I'll need full statements from both of you. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. at the station. Bring all your evidence, recordings, financial documents, everything. We'll be there. After Walsh left, Ethan and I stood in the driveway, watching the sun come up. We'd been awake for 24 hours. I felt like I'd aged 10 years. Is it really over? Ethan asked. The dangerous part is, now comes the bureaucracy. Dad? Yeah? Thank you for believing me, for helping me, for not thinking I was crazy. You're my son. Of course I believed you. Not everyone would have. Then everyone's an idiot. I put my arm around his shoulders. You did good, kid. You outsmarted them. You got justice. Your mother would be proud. You think? I know. We went back to my apartment. Ethan crashed on the couch and slept for 14 hours straight. I tried to sleep, but couldn't. Just kept thinking about how close we'd come to disaster. If Mark had been armed, if Laura had found the recording pen, if the police hadn't believed us. But they had, and we'd won. The trial started 4 months later. Laura's lawyer tried every defense: entrapment, coercion, inadmissible evidence, false confession. He painted her as a victim of manipulation, a woman who'd been pressured into saying things she didn't mean. The jury didn't buy it. The recording was clear. Laura admitting to planning Ethan's murder. Laura describing how Mark had suggested hiring a hitman. Laura showing no remorse about her husband's supposed disappearance. Mark's lawyer took a different approach. He argued that Mark was just following Laura's orders, that she was the real mastermind. That strategy collapsed when the prosecution introduced evidence of Mark's embezzlement. He'd been stealing from the company for 3 years, long before he met Laura, almost $2 million hidden in offshore accounts. Then they brought in Billy Kowalski, the arsonist. Billy was small and nervous, with burn scars on his hands. He'd already cut a deal with the prosecution, 20 years instead of life in exchange for his testimony. Tell us about your relationship with Mark Sullivan, the prosecutor said. I did jobs for him, insurance fraud mostly. He'd hire me to burn down buildings he owned, make it look accidental. He'd collect the insurance money, give me a cut. How many buildings? 5, maybe 6, over the years. And the warehouse where Ethan Morrison supposedly died? That was supposed to be different. Mark said there'd be someone inside. Said I needed to make sure the guy didn't get out. Did he tell you who? No. Just said it was someone who needed to disappear. What did you think that meant? I thought it meant he wanted me to kill someone. Billy's voice was flat. I said no at first. I burn buildings, I don't kill people. But Mark offered $50,000, cash, and I needed the money. So you agreed? Yeah, I agreed. The courtroom was silent. What went wrong? The prosecutor asked. The target left early. I didn't know until later. I set the fire like we planned, but he wasn't inside. Other people were, though. 2 warehouse workers doing inventory. They died in the fire. Did you know they'd be there? No. Mark said the building would be empty. He lied. What happened after the fire? Mark called me, gave me the $50,000. I didn't know until I saw the news that the wrong people had died. Did you tell anyone? No, I was scared. Scared of Mark. Scared of going to prison. So I kept quiet. Billy looked at the jury. I'm not proud of it, but that's what happened. Mark's face was stone. Laura was crying, but I couldn't tell if the tears were real. The defense tried to discredit Billy, said he was a career criminal, a liar, someone who'd say anything to reduce his sentence. But the financial records backed up his story. $50,000 had moved from Mark's offshore account to Billy's on the day after the fire. Then came the insurance investigators. They testified about the 3 policies, the suspicious timing, the red flags they'd noticed. They'd been planning to deny the claims anyway, but the criminal investigation had made their job easier. "In 30 years, I've never seen anything this brazen," one investigator said. 3 policies in 6 months, all with different companies, combined payout of $5 million. It was clearly fraud. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Laura sobbed when the verdict was read. Mark just stared straight ahead, his face blank. Sentencing came a week later. "Laura Morrison," the judge said, "you conspired to murder your husband for financial gain. You showed no remorse, no empathy, no human decency. You're sentenced to 30 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole." Laura collapsed. Her lawyer caught her before she hit the floor. "Mark Sullivan," the judge continued, "you hired someone to murder your business partner. That murder attempt resulted in the disappearances of 2 innocent people. You embezzled millions of dollars. You committed insurance fraud. You're sentenced to 40 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole." Mark didn't react, just stood there, empty. As they were led away, Laura turned back one last time. She looked at Ethan, then at me. "I did love him once," she said. "I want you to know that." Then she was gone. Ethan and I walked out of the courthouse into bright sunshine. News cameras surrounded us, reporters shouting questions. Detective Walsh guided us through the crowd to his car. "How do you feel?" a reporter yelled at Ethan. "Relieved," he said. Justice was served. "What about you, Mr. Morrison? What's it like knowing your daughter-in-law tried to kill your son?" I stopped, looked directly at the camera. It's a reminder that evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like someone you invited to Thanksgiving dinner. Walsh drove us away from the chaos. We didn't speak for a long time. "Where do you want me to drop you?" Walsh asked. "Nowhere," Ethan said. "Just drive. I need to think." So Walsh drove. Through the city, past the warehouse where the fire had happened, past the cemetery where we'd held the fake funeral, past Ethan's old house, which had a for sale sign in the yard now. "I can't believe it's over," Ethan said finally. "It's not over," I replied. "They'll appeal. There'll be motions, hearings, more legal battles. This could drag on for years. But they're in prison. They can't hurt me anymore." "No, they can't." Walsh pulled up outside my apartment. "You two did good. Not many people would have had the guts to pull off what you did." "We didn't have a choice," I said. "Everyone has a choice. You made the right ones." He handed me his card. "If you need anything, call me, day or night." After Walsh left, Ethan and I sat in my living room. It was the same room where he'd slept on the couch during the trial, where we'd planned our strategy, where we'd celebrated small victories. "What now?" Ethan asked. "Now you rebuild your life." "How?" "Everyone thinks I'm some kind of mastermind who faked his own disappearance. Half the internet thinks I'm a genius. The other half thinks I'm insane." "You're neither. You're a survivor." "I don't feel like one." "You will. Eventually." He stood, walked to the window. "The company's falling apart. Without Mark, without Laura, there's no one to run it. The board wants to sell." "So, sell it. Just like that?" "Just like that. Take the money, start fresh. Do something different." "Like what?" "Whatever makes you happy. Whatever doesn't involve murder plots and insurance fraud." He laughed, but it was hollow. "I don't even know what makes me happy anymore." "Then figure it out. You've got time now. All the time in the world." My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Morrison, this is Janet Chen from the District Attorney's Office. We'd like to discuss your son's case. There are some additional charges we're considering against Mark Sullivan." "What kind of charges?" "The 2 workers who died in the warehouse fire. We're looking at upgrading to felony murder. If Mark hired the arsonist and people died as a result, he's legally responsible for those disappearances. Will that add more time to his sentence? Potentially life without parole. I looked at Ethan. He was watching me, waiting. What do you need from us? I asked Janet. More testimony, more evidence, your cooperation with another trial. We'll do it. After I hung up, Ethan said, Another trial? Those 2 workers had families, they deserve justice too. I know. It's just exhausting thinking about going through this again. Then don't think about it. We'll deal with it when it comes. I stood. Right now, I'm making dinner. You're staying. And we're going to eat and watch terrible television and pretend we're normal people for one night. We're not normal people. No, but we can pretend. The second trial took 6 months to arrange. In that time, Ethan sold his company for $8 million. After taxes and fees, he cleared about $5 million. What are you going to do with it? I asked. We were sitting in a coffee shop downtown, watching people rush by with their problems and their lives, blissfully unaware that the man next to them had once faked his own disappearance. I want to start a foundation, in Mom's name, for people who've been victims of domestic violence or financial abuse. Your mother would love that. I've been thinking about it a lot. How many people are in situations like mine, who are stealing from them, manipulating them? He stirred his coffee. I want to help them. That's a good thing to do with the money. Better than a yacht? Much better. He smiled. Although a small boat might be nice. Don't push it. The second trial was shorter than the first. Billy Kowalski testified again, this time about the 2 workers who'd died. Their names were Paul Henderson and David Grant. Paul had 3 kids. David had a pregnant wife. Their families sat in the courtroom, watching Mark with hatred in their eyes. I didn't know they'd be there, Mark said when he took the stand. I swear. Billy said he'd make sure the building was empty. But you hired him to commit arson, the prosecutor said. Yes. And you knew arson could result in disappearances. I thought he'd be careful. Careful? You hired a criminal to burn down a building. How careful did you think he'd be? Mark had no answer. The jury found him guilty of 2 counts of felony murder. The judge added 2 life sentences to his existing 40-year term. And that's exactly what you deserve. After the sentencing, Paul Henderson's widow approached Ethan and me outside the courthouse. Thank you, she said, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for not letting them get away with it. I'm sorry about your husband, Ethan said. If I'd known... It's not your fault. It's theirs. She looked back at the courthouse. At least now there's justice. She walked away, and I wondered if justice was enough. Probably not. But it was something. Ethan launched the Sarah Morrison Foundation 6 months after the second trial. The mission was simple: provide legal aid, financial support, and protection for people trapped in abusive or fraudulent relationships. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of people reached out in the first week. Stories of husbands who'd stolen their wives' identities, wives who'd taken out secret loans, partners who'd forged documents, emptied bank accounts, destroyed credit scores. I had no idea it was this common, Ethan said, reading through the requests for help. Most people don't. They think it only happens to other people, until it happens to them. He hired a staff of lawyers, financial advisors, and counselors, rented an office downtown, spent his days helping people escape situations like the one he'd barely survived. I visited the office once a week, volunteering where I could. Mostly I just listened to people tell their stories. Sometimes that was enough. One woman, Patricia, had been married for 15 years before she discovered her husband had taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on her. I only found out because I was looking for our tax returns, she said, and I saw the paperwork. When I confronted him, he said it was just smart planning. But the way he looked at me... She shuddered. I knew. I knew he was thinking about it. What did you do? I asked. I left that night, took my kids, and went to my sister's house. Filed for divorce the next day. He fought it, of course, said I was paranoid. But the foundation helped me get a lawyer, helped me prove what he'd done. Now he's being investigated for fraud. And you're safe? I'm safe. My kids are safe. That's what matters. Stories like Patricia's filled my days, each one a reminder of how close Ethan had come to being a statistic, a cautionary tale, another name on a tombstone. I started teaching again, too. Part-time at the community college, literature classes mostly. We read Stephen King because his stories understood something fundamental about human nature, that monsters don't always have fangs. The scariest villains aren't supernatural, I told my students. They're the ones who smile at you across the dinner table while planning your destruction. One student, a young woman named Amy, stayed after class. My boyfriend keeps asking about my life insurance, she said quietly. Says we should both have policies, just in case, but something feels wrong about it. Trust your instincts. What if I'm being paranoid? What if you're not? I handed her the foundation's card. Talk to them. Let them investigate. If it's nothing, you'll have peace of mind. If it's something... I didn't finish the sentence. 2 weeks later, Amy came back to class with a restraining order against her boyfriend. The foundation's lawyers had discovered he'd already taken out a policy on her, forging her signature. The police were investigating. You saved my life, she told me. No, you saved your own life. I just pointed you in the right direction. But I went home that night and cried. For Amy, for Patricia, for all the people who didn't see it coming, who trusted the wrong person and paid the price. 2 years after the trial, I got a letter from Laura. It was forwarded through the foundation, addressed to me, but clearly meant for Ethan too. The handwriting was neat, controlled, nothing like the sobbing woman who'd been dragged from the courtroom. Dear James, it read, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to ask for anything. But I'm writing anyway because I need you to understand something. I was wrong. About everything. About Ethan. About the money. About thinking I could get away with murder. I've had 2 years to think about what I did, what I planned to do. 2 years in an 8x10 cell with nothing but my conscience. And I'm sorry. That's inadequate. I know. Sorry doesn't bring back the 2 men who died in the fire. Sorry doesn't give Ethan back the years of happiness I stole. Sorry doesn't undo the pain I caused you. But it's all I have. I loved your son once. That was real. And then I let greed turn me into something monstrous. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I became. And I'm sorry. Laura. I showed the letter to Ethan. He read it twice, then set it on the table. What do you think? I think she's had 2 years to craft an apology. Doesn't make it real. But what if it is? What if she really is sorry? Does it matter? He was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Part of me wants to forgive her. Part of me wants her to suffer forever. I don't know which part is right. Maybe both parts are right. How does that work? You can forgive her and still want justice. You can acknowledge that she's human and still believe she deserves to be in prison. They're not mutually exclusive. Did you forgive her? I thought about it. About the slap at the wedding. About the funeral where I'd buried a stranger. About the recording pen and the confession. No, I said. I don't think I have. And I don't think I ever will. Is that wrong? It's honest. Ethan folded the letter, put it in his desk drawer. I'm not going to write back. Not now. Maybe someday. But not now. That's okay. Is it, though? Shouldn't I be the bigger person? Shouldn't I offer forgiveness and redemption and all that? You don't owe her anything. Not forgiveness. Not redemption. Nothing. She tried to murder you. That's not something you have to get over. Then why do I feel guilty for not forgiving her? Because you're a good person. Good people feel guilty even when they shouldn't. He smiled sadly. Mom used to say that. She was right. 3 months later, I met Margaret at a faculty mixer. She taught history, specialized in women's suffrage, had a laugh that filled a room. We started having coffee, then dinner, then regular dinners. I should tell you something, I said on our 5th date. My life is complicated. How complicated? My daughter-in-law tried to murder my son for insurance money. We faked his disappearance, gathered evidence, and sent her to prison. It was a whole thing. She set down her wine glass. I read about that. The Morrison case. That was you? That was me. And you're telling me this because if we're going to keep seeing each other, you should know what you're getting into. I'm not a simple retired teacher. I'm a man who helped bring down 2 murderers. Some people find that intimidating. She leaned forward. I find it impressive. You protected your family. You got justice. That's not intimidating. That's admirable. You're not concerned about the baggage? Everyone has baggage. Yours is just more interesting than most. We kept dating. She met Ethan, who liked her immediately. She came to foundation events, donated money, volunteered her time. She fit into my life like she'd always been there. I like her, Ethan said after she left one dinner. So do I. Are you going to marry her? It's only been 6 months. So, Mom and you got engaged after 4 months. That was different. How? I don't know. It just was. But 3 months later, I proposed. In the same restaurant where Sarah and I had our first date, 30 years ago. Margaret cried and said yes, and we told Ethan over the phone. Finally, he said. I was worried you'd wait forever. I'm not good at waiting. No, you're good at action, at fighting, at winning. Is that a compliment? The highest. Margaret and I got married in a small ceremony at the courthouse. Just Ethan, a few friends, Detective Walsh as a witness. Nothing fancy. Nothing that reminded me of Ethan's disaster of a wedding with Laura. Afterward, we had dinner at a steakhouse. Walsh told stories about his cases, carefully avoiding any mention of murder or betrayal. Ethan talked about the foundation, about the 200 people they'd helped so far. Margaret talked about her research, about women who'd fought for their rights against impossible odds. You would have liked Sarah, I told her. She was like those women, stubborn, brave, unwilling to back down. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you too. Later, walking to the car, Ethan pulled me aside. I got another letter from Laura. What did it say? More apologies, more explanations. She's up for parole review next year. Thinks she has a chance. She doesn't. I know, but she's trying anyway. He paused. She asked if I'd write a letter supporting her release. Are you going to? No, absolutely not. She can serve every day of her 30 years. Good. But Mark wrote to me too. Cancer. Asked if I'd come visit before he dies. Are you going to? Ethan was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Part of me wants to see him reduced to nothing, to watch him face disappearance knowing he wasted his life on greed and violence. But another part of me just wants to forget he exists. What does your therapist say? That I should do whatever feels right. That there's no wrong answer. She's right. What would you do? I thought about it. About Mark in his cell. About the 2 men who died in the fire, who never got the chance to grow old. I wouldn't go, I said. He doesn't deserve your presence. Not at his disappearance, not ever. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. 6 months later, Mark died in prison. Pancreatic cancer, quick and brutal. There was no funeral. No one to mourn him. His body was cremated, his ashes scattered in an unmarked location. Good, Ethan said when he heard. That's exactly what he deserved. Laura's parole hearing came and went. She was denied without hesitation. The parole board cited the severity of her crimes, her lack of genuine remorse, the danger she posed to society. She'd have another chance in 5 years. But Ethan and I both knew she'd never be released, just like they'd planned for Ethan. The symmetry was almost poetic. 5 years after the trial, Ethan got remarried. Her name was Jennifer, a social worker he'd met through the foundation. She was kind, patient, nothing like Laura. She knew everything about Ethan's past and loved him anyway. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. No demands for apartment keys, no slaps across the face. Just two people promising to be honest with each other, to protect each other, to choose each other every day. I walked Ethan down the aisle. Margaret cried. Detective Walsh gave a toast about second chances and new beginnings. To people who survive the impossible, Walsh said, raising his glass, and to the fathers who helped them do it. Everyone drank to that. At the reception, Ethan pulled me aside. Thank you, he said. For what? For everything. For believing me when I said Laura was dangerous. For helping me fake my disappearance. For getting the confession. For standing by me through 2 trials and 5 years of chaos. For showing me what real love looks like. You're my son. I'd do it all again. I know. That's what makes you remarkable. I'm not remarkable. I'm just a father who protected his child. That's exactly what makes you remarkable. He hugged me tight. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. A year later, Jennifer gave birth to a daughter. They named her Sarah, after my wife, after Ethan's mother, after the woman who'd taught us both how to see through people's lies. I held baby Sarah in the hospital, this tiny, perfect thing, and thought about how close she'd come to never existing. If Laura had succeeded, if Mark's plan had worked, if Billy Kowalski had been more careful with his arson. But they'd failed, and Ethan had survived. And now there was this new life, this continuation of everything good Sarah had been. She looks like her grandmother, Margaret said. She does. Do you think Sarah would be proud of everything you and Ethan did? I thought about the fake funeral, the recording pen, the trials, the cold, calculated revenge we'd taken. Yes, I said. She'd be proud that we fought back, that we didn't let evil win, that we protected our family. Even though you broke laws, even though you manipulated people? Especially because of that. Sarah understood that sometimes you have to bend the rules to get justice, that sometimes the system fails and you have to take matters into your own hands. She sounds like she was an amazing woman. She was, and this little girl is going to be just like her. Baby Sarah yawned and grabbed my finger with her tiny hand. I stood there holding her, thinking about the past 7 years, about fake disappearances and real justice, about murder plots and cold revenge, about the price of protecting the people you love. It had been worth it. Every risk, every sleepless night, every moment of fear and doubt, because Ethan was alive, because Jennifer was part of our family, because baby Sarah existed. That was revenge enough. 10 years after the trial, I stood in front of my literature class and told them about the importance of seeing people clearly. The greatest danger isn't the villain who announces his intentions, I said. It's the one who smiles while sharpening the knife, the one who says, I love you, while planning your destruction. That's real horror. That's what Stephen King understood. A student raised her hand. Professor Morrison, is it true you were involved in that famous case, the fake disappearance case? I'd been waiting for this question for 10 years. I'd prepared an answer, something vague and diplomatic. Instead, I told the truth. Yes, my son faked his disappearance to escape a murder plot orchestrated by his wife and business partner. I helped him gather evidence. They're both in prison now, serving life sentences. The class was silent. And I'd do it again, I continued, without hesitation, without regret, because protecting your family isn't just important, It's everything. After class, several students came up to me with their own stories: abusive relationships, financial manipulation, family members who'd betrayed them. I gave them all the foundations card. "Talk to my son," I said. "He'll help you." And he did. The foundation had helped thousands of people by then, saved lives, prevented murders, given people the tools to escape before it was too late. That evening, I went home to Margaret. We'd been married for 8 years, and I still couldn't believe my luck in finding her. She was reading on the couch, glasses perched on her nose, completely absorbed in a book about Eleanor Roosevelt. "How was class?" she asked without looking up. I told them about Laura and Mark. Now she looked up. "Everything?" "Everything." "How'd they take it?" Some were shocked, some were inspired. A few looked at me like I was crazy. "You're not crazy. You're protective. There's a difference." I sat down next to her. "Do you ever regret marrying me? Marrying into all this chaos?" "Every day." My heart dropped. "I'm kidding." She kissed my cheek. "I've never regretted it for a second. Your chaos is more interesting than most people's peace." That's one way to look at it. It's the right way to look at it. We sat in comfortable silence, her reading, me just being present. Outside, the city hummed with life. People rushing to appointments, to dinners, to their own small dramas and triumphs. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Can you babysit tomorrow? Date night with Jennifer." I typed back, "Of course, bring Sarah over at 6. Margaret smiled. "Another evening with our granddaughter?" "Our favorite thing." "Your favorite thing. I just tolerate it for your sake." "Liar." She laughed. "Okay, yes. I love it too." The next evening, Ethan dropped off Sarah, who was now 9 years old and looked exactly like her grandmother. She had Sarah's eyes, Sarah's smile, Sarah's stubborn determination. "Grandpa, can we make cookies?" she asked the second she walked in. "What kind?" "Chocolate chip with extra chocolate." Obviously. We made cookies while Margaret supervised, making sure we didn't burn down the kitchen. Sarah told us about school, about her friends, about the science project she was working on. "I'm studying genetics," she said. "How traits get passed down from parents to kids." "What have you learned?" Margaret asked. "That I got Grandma Sarah's eyes. Dad showed me pictures. We look exactly the same." "You do," I said. "It's uncanny." "Do you miss her? Grandma Sarah?" "Every day." "What was she like?" I'd told Sarah stories about her grandmother before, but tonight I told her something new, something true. She was fierce, protective. She would have done anything to protect the people she loved, just like your dad, just like me. Would she have helped Dad fake his disappearance? Margaret shot me a look. We'd agreed to tell Sarah about the case when she was older. Apparently, Ethan had decided older was now. "Yes," I said. "She would have planned it better than I did, actually. Your grandmother was scary smart." "Cool." Sarah bit into a warm cookie. "I want to be like her when I grow up." "You already are." After Sarah went to bed, Margaret and I sat on the porch watching the stars. "She knows everything," I said. "Ethan told her last week, wanted to be honest about their family history. And she's okay with it? She's proud of it. Proud of you both for fighting back, for not being victims." I thought about 9-year-old Sarah, growing up knowing her grandmother and grandfather were the kind of people who took justice into their own hands. The kind who faked disappearances and gathered evidence and sent murderers to prison. "Is that the right lesson to teach a kid?" I asked. "It's an honest lesson. That sometimes the world is cruel. That sometimes you have to fight dirty to survive. That protecting your family is the most important thing you can do." Margaret took my hand. "That's not a bad thing to learn. Even if it means breaking rules? Especially if it means breaking rules. Rules didn't save Ethan. You did. She was right. The system had failed. The police couldn't help without evidence. The law protected Laura and Mark until we forced their hands. Cold revenge had saved my son's life, and I'd never apologize for that. 15 years after the trial, I got a call from the prison. Breast cancer, metastasized to her lungs and liver. She had weeks, maybe days. She was asking to see Ethan. I called him immediately. I said, "Good," Ethan replied without hesitation. "She wants to see you." "Absolutely not." That's what I told them. A pause. "Do you think I should go?" "Do you want to?" "No, but maybe I should anyway. Get closure or whatever." "You don't need closure from her. You got that 15 years ago when she was sentenced." "Then why do I feel guilty?" "Because you're a good person. Even now, even after everything, you still feel empathy for someone who tried to murder you. That's not weakness. That's humanity." "Would you go? If you were me?" I thought about it. About Laura in her cell, asking for the man she'd tried to kill. About whether forgiveness was something she deserved or something Ethan needed. "No," I said. "I wouldn't go. She made her choices. She lived with the consequences. You don't owe her a comfortable disappearance." "Yeah, that's what I thought too." Laura died 3 days later, alone in the prison hospital. No visitors, no family, just guards and nurses who saw her as another inmate. The prison sent Ethan a letter asking if he wanted to claim her body. He declined. She was buried in a pauper's grave, no headstone, no marker, nothing to indicate she'd ever existed. "It's over," Ethan said when he called to tell me. "Really, truly over." "How do you feel?" "Empty. Not sad, not happy. Just empty. Like closing a book I stopped reading years ago." "That's normal." "Is it? Shouldn't I feel something? Relief? Anger? Something?" "You feel what you feel." He laughed bitterly. "That's a sentence I never thought I'd hear." "Welcome to our weird life." "Yeah, our weird, impossible, somehow happy life." And it was happy. Despite everything, despite the fake funeral and the trials and the years of therapy, despite Laura and Mark and Billy Kowalski, despite all the darkness we'd waded through, we'd come out the other side. Ethan's foundation had helped over 10,000 people by then, provided legal aid, financial support, protection, saved lives, prevented murders. Sarah was thriving, honor roll student, captain of the debate team, planning to study law. She wanted to help people like her dad did, like I'd taught her to. Margaret and I celebrated our 15th anniversary. We traveled, read books, taught classes, lived the quiet life I'd never imagined having after that funeral 15 years ago. "Do you ever think about her?" Margaret asked one night. "Laura?" "Sometimes. Not often." "What do you think about?" How close we came to losing. If Ethan hadn't overheard that conversation, if John hadn't helped fake the disappearance, if Laura had been smarter, more careful. I paused. "We got lucky." "You got strategic. There's a difference." "Maybe, but luck played a part. And cold, calculated revenge played a bigger part." "That too." She kissed my cheek. "I'm glad you're the kind of man who fights for his family, even if it means breaking rules. Even if it means getting your hands dirty. You say that now. What if I'd failed? What if we'd both ended up in prison? Then I would have visited you every week, brought you terrible coffee and complained about the guards. We would have made it work." "You're insane." "I'm committed. There's a difference." I pulled her close. "Thank you. For understanding. For not judging. For loving me despite the baggage. The baggage is the best part. It's what makes you interesting." Epilogue. 20 years after the trial, I stood in front of a crowd of 500 people at the Foundation's anniversary gala. Ethan stood next to me, gray starting to show in his hair. Sarah sat in the front row, now a law student at Yale, home for the event. 20 years ago, I said into the microphone, my son faked his own disappearance to escape a murder plot. That desperate act led to this foundation, to helping thousands of people escape situations that would have killed them. It led to changing laws, raising awareness, saving lives. The crowd applauded. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that revenge is always the answer, or that breaking rules is always justified. But I will tell you this: protecting your family is the most important thing you can do, even if it's hard, even if it's dangerous, even if it means doing things that scare you. More applause. My son is alive today because we fought back, because we refused to be victims, because we understood that sometimes justice doesn't come from the system. Sometimes you have to create it yourself. Standing ovation. After the speech, Sarah hugged me tight. That was perfect, Grandpa. Your grandmother would have done it better. Maybe, but she'd be proud of you anyway. I hope so. Ethan approached with Jennifer, who was pregnant with their second child. Another girl. They were naming her Margaret. Great speech, Dad. Thanks. I tried not to incriminate us too much. The statute of limitations expired years ago. We're safe. Still, old habits. We stood together, 3 generations of Morrisons, survivors of attempted murder and architects of cold revenge. Around us, people celebrated the foundation, celebrated life, celebrated the fact that good sometimes wins. Later that night, back at home, I sat in my study, looking at old photos. Sarah in her wedding dress, Ethan as a baby, the 3 of us at his high school graduation. My daughter-in-law had died in prison 5 years ago, but here we were, still standing, still fighting, still protecting each other. Margaret appeared in the doorway. You okay? Just thinking. About how it all turned out, against all odds. Cold revenge tends to work that way. Is that what this was? Revenge? You tell me. You faked your son's disappearance, manipulated his would-be murderer into confessing, sent her and her lover to prison for life, and built an empire on the ashes. If that's not revenge, I don't know what is. It was justice. It was both. And that's okay. She was right. It had been revenge and justice, protection and punishment, love and ruthlessness all mixed together. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Come to bed, Margaret said. You've spent enough time in the past. Let's focus on the future. What's in the future? Grandchild number 2, Sarah's law school graduation, more years of teaching terrible students, more anniversaries, more life. She smiled. Isn't that enough? It was. It was more than enough. I turned off the light in my study, took Margaret's hand, and walked toward the future. Behind me, the past stayed where it belonged, in photographs and memories and the cold satisfaction of revenge well served. The people who'd tried to destroy my family were gone, and we were here, alive, together, victorious. That was all that mattered. That was everything.